Olá, pessoal, boa noite. Renato Fusaro, do Workplace Club. É um prazer tê-los aqui conosco. Nós estamos conectando aqui uns 4 minutos antes da hora do nosso webinar. Vamos aguardar um pouco e ver as pessoas se conectando com a gente. E começando a conversar com a gente aqui, nós já temos algumas pessoas conectadas. A Gabi Marques já está conectado, o Albélio Dias. A gente vai começar conversando com vocês, gays, e depois nós vamos passar para o webinar que vai ser em inglês. Caso alguém tenha algum comentário ou alguma pergunta que queira fazer, fica à disposição aqui no chat para ouvi-los e para ter o acesso de todo mundo aqui para que a gente possa responder e eu colocar as questões aqui colocar aqui na tela para o nosso palestrante responder, o Chris Zlocki, ok? Vou esperar mais uns 3 minutos para a gente começar. Enquanto isso, a gente vai falando das pessoas que já estão conectadas aqui. Eu tenho a Gabi Marques, que é do Workplace Club, do Polvo Lab também, uma das idealizadoras desse grupo que a gente tem aqui, o Workplace Club. A gente tem o Albélio Dias, se não me engano, o Albélio Dias está em Belo Horizonte, né, Albélio? Acho que é isso, se eu não me engano. Tiago Ramos de Souza, que trabalha com a gente há muito tempo e já participa do Workplace Club desde a sua fundação. O Andrei Trevisan, que também está sempre com a gente, né? Está sempre participando de todos os eventos com a gente presencial e agora no nosso primeiro webinar. Cristiano Mantovani, o Lucas. A gente só tem muita gente boa aqui entrando no nosso webinar aqui. A gente vai aguardando um pouquinho aqui para começar. E aí eu vou passar para o inglês para que a gente possa ter o Chris. Chris, can you listen me well, man?
I wish you well.
No.
Is that what you mean?
Can you hear me well?
Oh, yeah, you're perfect.
Oh, man. Cool. So, yeah, the idea is check how it is the tech. Sometimes we have some problems with the microphones and cameras. So
it's perfect. Well done.
I'm so glad. So just 2 minutes and you can start, okay?
Okay, great. Yeah, it's awesome.
Maravilha. Nós temos aqui também o Gabriel Augusto Veiga, que já está participando com a gente. A Marta Guimarães, o Ítalo, da IBM, o Celso Saito, mais um dos nossos idealizadores aqui do Workplace Club. É um prazer ter vocês aqui com a gente, né? Nós temos, para este webinar, um número recorde de inscritos, quase 800 inscritos, né? É uma honra contar com vocês aqui no nosso webinar. E a gente vai, daqui a 1 minutinho a mais, já começar formalmente. Então, vá se conectando, vai ficando aí olhando o nosso vídeo que a gente vai colocar e depois, na sequência, a gente começa o webinar, ok? So, hello and welcome, everybody. I am Renato Fusaro, and you are in the first Workplace Club webinar. Before we start, I'd like to talk a little about the Workplace Club. The Workplace Club is a single opportunity to connect only the most important decision makers for the real estate, facilities, and workplace in our Brazilian market to network and to provide the best content to improve our career. We start in 2023 only for Brazil, but next year we are planning to expand to entire Latin America. So our members are the most important decision makers on this market, and they have no cost to participate. To provide quality content and networking, we have our sponsors. So tonight we have for our first webinar, Colliers. We have also WOBA, ATEC, and Millerno. We will provide 10 in-person events. In fact, we already provide 2 events this year and 10 webinars per year. Our events focus on experience to connect. We successfully executed a golf event some weeks ago, a bowling event, and the next one will be a disruptive elevator speech. That will be tomorrow night. So it will be fun. Stay tuned. In June, we will have the MasterChef event. July will be the whining painting event. August, we will go back to the sports like tennis, beach volley, soccer, curling, cycling, and others. So we are doing events to have fun, Chris. So it's very interesting, connect to the people, not only for content, but also sports. Talking about our today webinar, please, if you have any question, don't hesitate to add to the chat, and I will try to put most as possible in the screen to our speaker answer. Today, we host one of the biggest experts in the workplace. I have a chat with Chris, and he's amazing. A lot of people that I spoke from a lot of different companies say, hey, Chris is great. He's have a great background regarding workplace. So it's an honor to have Chris Zlocki from Colliers International to talk about the future of our jobs. So Chris, first of all, virtually, welcome to Brazil. You are in Brazil, man.
Well, Renato, thank you for the invite. What a warm welcome. Really amazing to be here in Brazil virtually, and really excited for this session. I think the format you pulled together is really fantastic. It's really fantastic to see the group that you have that's so passionate about the workplace as an opportunity to drive business change. So really excited to dig in with you.
Yeah, cool. Thank you so much for your time, Chris. And it's really an honor to have you as our first speaker for the Workplace Club. So we are working very close with Colliers here with the team that are focused on the Workplace Club initiatives. And have you here as the first one, it's really an honor to us. So it'd be great. If you would like to share your screen, please, can you put your presentation and I will add here in the streaming?
Sure, absolutely.
Guys, the first time that I'm using this tool for webinars. So let's see if it works well. Okay, I can see your presentation now, Chris. So thanks for the time to talk with our members and other people that I invited to participate. I just would like to start talking about the future of our profession. Pandemic accelerates some trends like the hybrid way to work, or the people call the new normal. What is the impact of this new normal for the corporate real estate professionals? I think this is the core of our presentation.
Yeah, I think it's a great question to kick off. In this, what we're going to be talking about today is really where the CRE organization is going, where real estate organizations can provide value, how things are shifting. And I think to kick this one off, I was thinking about this, that there are 2 big areas that are, to me, really define this. The first is the employee at the center. I think it really is important now with the criticality behind talent, attracting, retaining, keeping the best talent, and knowing that employees now really are looking for flexibility, choice within their day to ensure that we're providing them the tools, the space, the location to be able to be the most productive, be the most engaged, really sort of continue to evolve from where we were in the pandemic to a new vision of what the workplace could be. So I think having the employee at the center is just so critical to everything we do in redefining what work and the workplace looks like. The second one I would say is the relationship with your internal business customers. I think resetting the bar, if you haven't done that already, with the businesses that you're supporting about what their needs are, what are the goals, what are the the measures that are important to track performance as well as deliver value are really sort of critical and core to what real estate organizations should be focused on. Notice I didn't mention space. Notice I didn't mention facility or real estate. To me, it's about the employee and the business that we really have an incredible opportunity to re-gear and rethink the opportunity to shape the future of a company more than I've ever seen in my career, and be interested in you, Renato, to see if you feel the same about, the opportunity we have ahead of us to really show how real estate facilities and design can create and space can create a much more impactful operation and drive innovation for the future of their businesses.
That I fully agree, Chris. That's great.
So before, on that note, and really thinking about the future of an organization, I partnered with Colette Temming from Blue Sky, who is a strategic partner focused in facility management. And we set out to really sort of think about what the vision of an organization, a real estate organization, could be to create value. And we think, there are several different areas of change that are important for real estate organizations to consider. The first is people, what we were talking about, having the occupant and the employee at the center. The second is really rethinking process and technology being a big driver in that process. The third is productivity. That's how technology is going to change the productivity curve, and how much we can get done is going to be exponential with the advent of ChatGPT and AI taking on more and more of a potential presence within business. In transforming how business is getting done is going to be important. And then certainly that's going to shift partnerships and relationships, as well as then, and how the goals of what you're delivering internally to your customers, as well as how you partner with service providers, is going to be really important. And then how we use space. If you're thinking about the office as we did in 2019, I would challenge whether that would align with the future of where most businesses are going and what they need to support either their hybrid or their overall work strategy. So with that, in the paper that's online and available to you, to review, we noted several different change opportunities, several different change areas, opportunities, and the ability to sort of for CRE to develop their future, and we based it on some real plausible data points. People are going to work 40 to 60% out of the office moving forward, whether we know it or not. When you look at utilization numbers, even pre-pandemic, they're much lower than they were. And our ability to work in the office and the value of working in the office is changing. And that's also driven by generational changes, from moving from what baby boomers thought of the offices now to what Gen Z is, and how asynchronous work and different work happens at different places at different times, as well as how you collaborate and work together. The second on process, 30 to 50% of knowledge management work is anticipated to be automated by 2030. There are going to be 85 million jobs that are going to be created that are new, that aren't filled. And 85% of those jobs haven't even been invented yet because of the impact of machine learning and process re-engineering and automation. And that leads to productivity. Based on a lot of this automation, productivity is going to change. It's projected to potentially double by 2030 for most knowledge management workers. So think about your job today, and in 6 or 7 years, you could be doing twice as much with the enablement of technology to be able to support what you want to get done. And then certainly in partnership relationships, what is in the company and outside the organization is really also going to shift based on these needs to be more variable, to have more opportunities. That's really important. And then the office will continue to be focused now more on intentionality. There's a reason for you to come into the office. For us to do what we're doing, being separated by thousands of miles and feel like we're all together, or, have the intent to feel like we're all together, it's really going to push the boundaries of why you need to be in the office. So developing the work norms and the opportunities to really illustrate why the office is important is going to continue to be a key factor, and I'll continue to draw down on those notes in here. Along with that, I think there's a whole need for new measures and metrics. We should be measuring things that are focused on improving the business and not just real estate. So if we're just measuring utilization and how we're drawing down cost and efficiency, those are all good things. But really, the opportunity now is to show how real estate and facilities and workplace really sort of improve how we attract and retain talent. How important the office is now is really, really critical, from location to the composition to the programming and amenities that are being played there. How are we improving innovation? Are we giving the right types of space for people to collaborate, to drive new products, to develop new services? Knowledge transfer. Do we have the right adjacencies? How do we measure that, are we putting the right people in the right places to take advantage of one-to-one relationships, or reduce that travel time between where they're located and how to connect? Workflow improvement. Are we providing the space to improve how work gets done, either from an in-place or from a virtual location? And then belonging and collaboration. Really belonging. Do we have an equitable environment where depending on who I am, where I'm positioned, do I feel like this place supports my needs, and do I feel like I'm part of a bigger culture, as well as what's happening, I would say, in the virtual world? Do I feel as connected outside the office as I am in the office? So those are some of the key things I think we ought to be thinking about, and certainly around process, productivity, and place, there are a number of different areas we want to touch on as well.
Chris, very interesting. So can you go deeper into my favorite one, the people? I think it's the next one, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Love it, man. I really believe it's important for companies to successful retain talents, have a focus on what I call experience that matter. I call how we can take care of the employees' experience from the main entrance until the parking space, the entire day in the office space. Since the strategy until performance managed, but the focus in the employee experience, using technology, but without forgetting the costs, of course. Every company are trying to make money. And if you talk about only retain talent or location and space, amazing space to the employees, you must take care of the cost. So what is the best structure for this? What do you believe is the best way and structure to do this?
I think the word experience that you used is really key, rather than space. Meaning, whether you're in the office or whether you're working virtually, providing the tools, the physical space, the amenities, the support that an employee needs is really going to continue to evolve and be important. Whether it's the right technology, the right collaboration tools that you can use to partner as a team, the right types of spaces for scale of organizations. I think it's just really going to be the critical piece that's going to, I think, show what the value of workplace is, of bringing people together, of making sure they have the right tools, environment, and technology to support them, is going to be critical. I also think this conversation about belonging and the purpose of the organization and having people feel like they're invested in part of a culture and part of an organization is really going to be critical as well. I think Gallup had a study that said, or had a survey that stated before the pandemic, only 35% of people felt like they were aligned or that their culture and their company values were aligned. So that meant pre-pandemic that the culture wasn't at a high point anyway. How do we use this moment to leverage facilities and technology to show how to create that connectedness back to the employee and back to the culture that they have, to really build on that and improve on it? I think this is a great time or an opportunity to rethink all those different pieces and move forward. So with that, from a people standpoint, if we were to think about the organization, a real estate organization, this is a traditional organizational model, right? Where you have one global leader or one regional leader. You have the typical sort of distribution of corporate real estate that's managing strategy advisory on acquiring space and making sure that the right real estate is aligned to the right business use. Then you have all your integrated facility management, hard and soft services that go along with managing the facilities. And then sometimes you have COEs or Center of Excellence or PMO or Project Management Office that really is responsible for ensuring you have the right tools, processes, governance. And it's always been thought about as a very structured way. I mean, the org chart's been around, I don't know, for almost 100 years. And it's been a way that's very hierarchical. The way we're probably going to be operating is more organic. When you think about this interconnectedness to virtual work and physical work, we need a structure that's more accommodating to actually think about that kind of work and how you have a structure that's different. So in this instance, just from a diagram standpoint, when you think about CRM, and I mean CRM from a business standpoint, where you put the business at the center and the whole question around work experience and the employee, that's really where the head of real estate and the organization should sit. And all those dots of services should be surrounded by delivering that. Around that, I believe a technology ecosystem to support how that interaction goes with employees as well as the internal businesses is going to be critical. You know, being able to have real-time analytics around how the real estate or the space is performing, how the employee experience is happening, and the systems being integrated, you know, all together from facilities through collaboration tools is going to be very important. And then this whole notion of a boundaryless type of organization where you have outsourced service providers providing services on demand, you know, that you're needed to support the delivery of and management of space, as well as ongoing pop-up services that might be needed in a more variable way than it just being one service provider delivering everything. How do we look at leveraging technology to find the best vendors, the best advisors, the best consultants based on business need and location? So
the other way to work, it was pretty much more focused on the structure, silos, a lot of handoff, you know, the real estate guy. So no, this is I give the key to you and you facilities manage, enjoy the ride. So nowadays it's much more different. So focus much more in the customer centric than just to say, no, this is my silo. I don't work on this silo and give to another one. So it's much more centric for human and focus on the customer, right, Chris?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it really, for your question, I think having these kind of 4 areas to focus on: strategy, making sure that, you know, you put the business first and you're proactive at bringing them ideas and gifts, I call them, to actually improve how they could be leveraging their workplace or their space or their real estate. That's really important. Culture and experience. Again, how are we helping define or enable engaged and impactful culture, one with purpose, one that you feel belonging, a sense of belonging? Then how do the operations and management support delivery of that space and of those locations? I think all those things are going to be so critical. I think, Renato, the way you said it, to flipping the script, where we're really the enabler for business, more critical business and employee experience and employee engagement.
Got it. In other companies I worked for, Chris, we had a lot of meetings and discussion about the CRM. Was common to say, oh, let's talk about CRM, how we can find the best way to approach the customer. But the main result was, let's make regular meetings with the stakeholders to discuss the portfolio, understand the business drive, to provide the space to them. So on this hybrid way to work, right? Nowadays it's hybrid. So we can work from home and the office, or maybe you can hire someone that it is like miles and miles from the headquarters. How we can drive this better in terms of provide the right space to the company and the right tools to the people work, Chris?
Yeah, Renato, it's such a critical question, right? I mean, more than ever, I'll go back to this statement. We have an opportunity to drive change within the businesses we're working with, because we can provide space that actually fits what they need versus the traditional space guidelines or universal type of space. This is the ability to bring, again, these businesses gifts. How do we look at the work that they're doing and say, hey, I have a better idea of where your people are working, how they should be working, and where they could, where they would want to work in delivering value. So I think, we have the ability to really reframe the impact on those key metrics and measures around innovation, around providing the right space to drive change. And more than ever, I think it takes us out of the order taker mentality of tell me what you need as a business and I'll go deliver, to now saying, I have an idea. We want to bring an idea to you. This is the way you could be working, and this is the kind of space you need and how much you need and how your employees could be working. We're really can be empowered to bring those kind of ideas and be very proactive in how we're thinking about the world. So along those same lines, when you think about productivity, technology, and performance management, I think in order to support all these ideas, you really need a great technology solution to do that. And more than ever, I feel confident that through this next evolution or wave of technological advancement, we're going to be able to connect things more seamlessly and have more data analytics and information to be more predictive versus looking at things that have happened. And so with some of the advancements in GPT technology, we're going to be able to draw a lot more data in to help make decisions about what's being read and help us think through what could happen. There are three sort of key technologies that I'll touch on that I think are going to make significant advancement. The first is something around the internal customer experience. How do you create a place for your customers to be able to understand what it is that you do, the value you bring, what the status of their projects are, what are the measures, what are our common goals that we want to be able to provide, and have that in a place to facilitate real-time dialogue. So it's one location to have all your measures, all your metrics, all your goals, what services you provide, what case studies. So it's one place to understand how you as a real estate organization can provide value. The second is this whole notion of CRM and a strategy center of excellence. So really, how can we have this people really focused within your organization on the delivery of the business? So leveraging those tools, how are they working with the businesses, defining those goals, developing plans, and really providing proactive solutions for your internal customers? And then third is this whole notion of this PMO or outsourced management team that's really focused on leveraging the right resources from the external sort of advisory or service provider network and being able to bring those in-house in order to drive change. And so I think there's just a ton of opportunity to continue to use process engineering, automation, and then this advent of the Internet of Things to be able to drive solutions.
And Chris, this is very interesting because some companies still believe that if they have a portfolio management system or a lease administration system to focus on the critical dates, it's enough to manage well the portfolio. But they forgot the main reason for our, the main reason for our existence, the employee experience, to retain the talent, provide the right location to people work, provide the tools to people thrive. So listen to customers, being proactive than reactive. How can we use tech for that? So you talk about the process engineering, automation, and Internet of the Things, something that I believe is very important for the future, right?
Absolutely. I mean, I go back to those measures again. And what are the things? The technology is only the platform to deliver the synthesis and intelligence and stories about the data and the information behind it. So I really think that based on what you suggest, going beyond the lease administration tool or an IWMS platform or a CMMS platform, how are we creating a technology platform that provide insight, feedback that improves overall business performance? So how are we illustrating how we're improving the total cost of occupancy or engagement within the overall employee base? How are we saving money and showing in the future how we can do more of that? And having a platform to be able to support that, I think, is really critical, as well as tracking and illustrating back to your business and your counterparts what the impact is going to be by creating these places that help better attract and retain talent, the right space, the right location, et cetera, and all those other measures and metrics that we had mentioned. And so when we think about emerging technology, I think that there are three areas that are going to continue to evolve, as mentioned. Process engineering, how we do things now to continue to evolve it. I think, reimagining how change management and what's required to transform and realign the organization from both a strategic standpoint and a delivery is going to continue to evolve with the technology in order to support both of those areas. The second is automation, just having more access and ease of access to simple tools that will all be integrated within one platform. I think an integrated platform to support is going to be critical for both portfolio management as well as helping the employee figure out how they interact with their space. So as someone drives into their office, them understanding telling them what conference room they need to be in, helping them think about their energy usage within their own office or shared space, and using all this predictive analytics and automation to be able to drive how you interact with the space is going to be critical as well. And then this whole question, that builds on the Internet of Things, that collecting all of these things and really being more anticipatory or being able to develop preventative schedules so that different systems can replace themselves. They understand what their lifespan is. They can go out and order their own parts to be able to replace different components or different things that are critical to the overall functions within the space itself.
Yeah, it's something that annoys me a little nowadays, Chris. Is pretty much something like I planning to go to the office, no, every day. I go twice or something as a regular employee doing nowadays for the hybrid way to work. And I stay very upset when I go there and try to find the people, and the people are not there.
Right.
So I have a tool to find the people prior to go to the office and say, okay, let's connect with my peers, or let's connect with the persons that I have more connections. Let's see if they are in the office. Because if you go to these tools that you have nowadays, Teams and other, they say, okay, he's connected, period. But don't say he's in the office space, that we can enjoy the time to go there to take a coffee and collaborate. We still don't have this kind of tool that help us to manage the space better and also manage our time better, that go to the office to collaborate and people really be there on that day. This is not simple now. And also other thing that annoy me when I go to the office, and that people go there seated in the same spot for 8 hours and put the headphone to make calls. It's something that I say, man, you don't need to be here, or you spend our money with the space for something that you can do in any place, and maybe you can do better in other places than just to sit and put the headphone and do calls. So we need to educate the people about the hybrid way to work and have the right tools to understand how we can connect with the people better, I think.
Yeah, I'm really sort of optimistic about that, Renato, with this advent of automation, artificial intelligence that's going to be able to help guide you as to, on your phone, is going to tell you that, Maria is in the office now. Do you want to meet with her, or pull your schedule up? Both of you are available now. And it actually facilitates that versus you doing that. And so this whole question of spatial relationships, either virtually or physically, I think is going to continue to evolve, just given the access and advent and the ability to develop in these new platforms to really sort of foster and drive those kind of more meaningful interactions and understanding. And you're right, if people are coming in the office to be on a digital call or a digital conference, and then they do that 6 out of the 8 hours of the day and they go home with no other interaction, you have to question what the rationale is behind why they're there versus really sort of balancing their work and their life in a more meaningful and interesting way. And the company understanding that that's important, and retaining that employee so that they have the flexibility and let's just say authority to work in the best way they can in the place they want to work in.
Yeah, fully agree, Chris. So talk a little about partnership. I think it's this next point that you were talking. Outsourced, let's say outsourced service providers are key to us, right? Like Colliers and others. To most of the companies don't have the capability to manage the workplace because it's not your core business. They are doing other things. And if you have a good service providers to manage the workplace, would be great. So the main question sometimes, what is the best balance? What is the balance between external and internal teams? Some company has more internal people doing facilities or real estate than others that outsource 100% of facilities and have just a few people doing workplace and real estate. So what do you believe is the right balance between these, Chris?
Yeah, another timely question. I think from our perspective, the way I look at it is there are 3 legs on the stool, or kind of a Venn diagram, if you were to picture it. And the piece that you didn't sort of mention there is, what is the business strategy? And what is what does the real estate organization feel is core to delivering value to those internal customers and employees that they want to hold internal? Is it strategic planning? Is it project management? What are the is it technology services? What are the things that is it concierge and space management? What are the things that are important to ensuring that those businesses, you're meeting those needs? To me, really starts the whole conversation. So that first diagram is really, the part of that diagram is really around the business strategy and what you're trying, what the business does. And then the second piece is, what should we hold internal that's core and important for us to own, that we think as an organization is proprietary or that is important to drive change with those businesses that we own. Things like customer relationship management, strategic planning come to mind. Concierge and employee services, work experience services. Those things, trying to understand how they fit those. And then the third leg on that stool is really, how do you leverage or manage in true partnership a relationship with your service providers? I think all those three things need to figure out how big and imbalanced they are before you as an organization figure out what's right to be insourced versus outsourced. I think a lot of companies tend to try to benchmark other like-kind companies in their sector, but their business models and their management of the overall business may be completely different. And so that's where I think companies get a bit challenged by not really sort of doing the due diligence, the work, and the analysis to figure out, how do you support your businesses in a proactive way to be able to set up that answer.
Cool. Great, man.
Yep. So I think, Renato, from that standpoint, if we're really thinking about this whole question of collaboration, performance management with the businesses and managing external teams, I think just riffing on what I just laid out there, really re-examining the services and processes you're providing, level setting on those business goals. Ask yourself, when's the last time you've had a meaningful conversation with your key businesses that you're supporting, and you understand what your goals are, how clear they are, what are the objectives and the measures that you want to have to judge performance? What are the challenges in that business in order to be able to deliver that service, either from your service provider or internally? And then what are those key metrics you're using to judge the performance for what you're delivering internally, as well as what do they want to measure? What are the things that they think are important to their senior leaders to show that they're creating change from a footprint and infrastructure standpoint? What are their measures? How are they illustrating back to their leadership beyond just revenue or sales? From an operational standpoint, what are the things that they're doing to exhibit the value that they're bringing back? And then this whole question of strategic alignment between what the service provider does, what you do, and what the business is expecting. And then really reassessing whether the model you have in place fits for what the business needs and what you're trying to deliver internally.
Yeah.
So
people sometimes think that they have a magical solution for everything, like this is the rule, let's follow the rule. No, let's see each one, how this impact and how is the future for this company to understand the right balance, right?
Exactly. I mean, I think it gets back to just basic business planning. When have we given ourselves the time, or when have you given yourselves the time to re-gear and reconnect with those business leaders on what they're trying to achieve and how you're supporting them and how the model can support that? So to me, those are just critical things we should be thinking about.
Yeah, great. So talk about place or space, Chris. I think a lot of companies are thinking or already had changed your layout, focusing on collaboration, providing more meeting rooms, amenities, coffee areas, and areas to be together, I call
Right.
the areas to collaborate. Then areas to sit or areas to work alone. They are focused and have more collaboration areas. What do you believe is the right balance in terms of physical office space? And to me, it's very clear for the COVID situation that we change a lot. We have nowadays the big challenge for some office space, it is the acoustic issue, because in the past the meeting rooms was closed and the work seats was in open space. Nowadays the work seats are enclosed and meeting rooms are more in open space, so the acoustic problem comes strong. So what is the right balance to you, Chris, about?
Yeah, again, I go back to the work. And when you look at a lot of companies who say, we want you to be back in the office 2 days a week or 3 days a week, and the first question employees ask, well, why do I need to be in that office? And what I think companies have felt that they feel comfortable is that, okay, we figured our hybrid strategy out. We're going to be in the office this many days a week. But the real work they haven't done is figured out, what do you do in the office 2 to 3 days a week? So I think the hard work for a lot of companies still needs to be done, which is translating the work that your employees, your business units, your sectors are doing to where that work should be done. So developing those work norms, the leadership models, the management models, the companies who have really done that, I think, are probably ahead of the game in terms of understanding what their space needs are, how they utilize space, what the type of space is, the mix between, as you said, private or collaborative space, how to manage those different neighborhoods to protect against some of the sound or some of the issues. But really that translation between how a business is working and how their employees want to work to the amount and the type of space they need. So again, I flip it back to the business need that I really question, or I put out the challenge, if accepted, to be able to go out and do that deep work to understand why people aren't coming into the office. Is it the space? Is it proximity? Understand what those businesses need and then figure out how to right size it and configure the space to support what they need to get done. And so with that, we've all seen diagrams like this. In the past, you had your typical portfolio that was comprised of office, meeting, amenities, informal gathering, and then flexible workspace. What we're seeing a trend with a lot of our companies is really rethinking that balance of figuring out what is the meeting space, what amenities do they need, how much real true office space do they need dedicated versus shared, how a role of flex workspace plays in. And now these questions about on-demand space, event space to bring teams together in periodic basis, on-demand meeting spaces, and then informal gathering spaces, I think that are keys that are going to really continue to be refined, but are the real questions. I mean, a lot of the conversation we're having is around right-sizing, downsizing portfolios, even before we figured out how hybrid's going to play out and what the future of some of that space is, just because most space is typically still very underutilized in many parts in many different regions within the world. And so with that, that was really the end of the presentation, Renato. I'll stop sharing here and turn it back over to you.
Yeah. So one of the researches I got here in Latin America that will show that some office occupancy change a little, depend of the city and the level of technology the city provide. I give you an example, like some cities like São Paulo, Bogota, Mexico City, that have a very hard traffic, and the country have a very good technology support, and people can work better at home. We are trying to go less to the office space. And other countries that the traffic is not so bad, but the technology is not so good, and people say, well, I need to go to the office, like
Right.
no way to work from home. Do you have any kind of research or know about the other regions than Latin America that have the same way to see this hybrid way to work, or is so particular for Latin America?
No, I think each region's a bit different. I mean, I think why, as an example, EMEA and APAC are more accepting to the office is just given the amount of space that they have at home, or things like air conditioning, and have relief and comfort. If you have a family in a 80 square meter apartment, it's very hard to work at home. So the office becomes the opportunity to do that. I think in the United States, as an example, where we have a spoil of a lot of space at home. So we have home offices. We have other places to go work that are very easily accessible. So I think a lot of it is about personal convenience. In the US, proximity is a big challenge right now. If you're more than 30 minutes from the office, sometimes if you're in a walking city, it could be as little as 5 to 10 minutes. It's really challenging to get to really draw someone back. Exactly. So I think, the question of where you live and how you live, and then the type of industry sector you're in, is really sort of creates that matrix of who's more attractive or coming into the office. So region or geography, sector, and then those two things I think are really important, either on a macro level. If you're in the US, the Southeast has higher numbers, like Miami, Atlanta, those parts have higher numbers of return to office than, let's say, the West Coast, or Silicon Valley, and some of those areas. So tech being different than banking and financial services. So it's really this cocktail of, there's no rhyme or reason, but I do think your personal experience in your home and what it could support really, to your point, draws in how the office becomes more or less important to you.
Yeah. And Chris, what's happened here also in Brazil was São Paulo is a tough city. It's not you must really love the city to live here. Like the traffic is terrible, a lot of things. My wife loves living in São Paulo because there's all the restaurants, you can do everything you want, and every kind of commerce is very good. Of course it is. But a lot of people moved from São Paulo during the pandemic to other small cities.
Right.
And now they don't want to come back because some companies say, no, you must come back to the office. And the guy say, no, I don't want. I probably find another job if you force me to come back to the office, just because they have a better city that provide more healthy opportunities. They have more time with the family because don't spend a lot of time with the traffic. And I think in other countries, it's pretty much the same, right? This is something that it's important to decide go or not go to the office. Should I stay or should I go, right? Like the music.
Well, I do think Latin America and other regions, as an example, are ahead in terms of communication and technology acceptance, because there was early adoption to cellular, to more advanced, versus, it made it easier to put one of these in someone's hands than a computer. And having that connectivity via cellular and other sort of mobile, it really started this way before COVID. So I think the trend of what you're saying is so important, and why that might be more accepted in your region as well.
Yeah, and I have a lot of friends also, Chris, that say, man, I need to go to the office because it is not possible to work from home. I have a 2-year-old kid or something like that, or a lot of people enjoy and like the routine, to take a shower, shave yourself, get a car, stay 1 hour in the traffic, listen music or listen the news and go to the office. And they feel fine with that. So I say, okay, let's provide a space to them. So we have some questions from the team here.
Sure.
I put in the screen. So Gabriel, thank you so much for your question. So how can we effectively measure the performance and success of our hybrid work initiatives, both in terms of employee satisfaction and organizational outcomes? I think one of the way to measure this is how, at least for the most of the companies I saw, is how much money we're saving for the rent, right? And other costs, but also try to understand the employee satisfaction. It's a great way to measure, right, Chris?
Absolutely. I mean, certainly cost and efficiency, both in energy savings, rental costs, being able to right size or downsize is one area. But I think the other side of this too is asking your employees, do you feel better about the work that you have? Get their feedback. Is it working? Measure the utilization of who's coming in, why they're coming in, beyond just the numbers. Get to the understanding of why they're using the space. And I think if you balance this out, you align, again, the work with the space, your employee engagement numbers are going to go through the roof. And it's proven. Gallup organization, 100,000 organizations just released that the highest engaged employees aren't in the office 5 days a week or in 1 day a week. They're in 3 days a week. And they're using the office as a way to meet with people, learn something, meet with clients, knowledge transfer. And that it becomes they're given the flexibility to use the office to do the work and to meet the way they can and should.
Yeah, and I love this comment for Alessandro. Say some roles actually don't even need to be in the office. It's like if I have a meeting for something in Brazil and we be face to face, and I see that I need to be there because of the technology also need to solve this problem that we have 10 people in the meeting room, and you are for your home is different connection and communication. But if I have my full day with the projects outside of Brazil, I even don't need to go to the office. So I prefer to work from home. That is more quiet, and I can really focus on some activities. So thank you, Alessandro.
Yeah, I think
Chris, this is the point.
Yeah, it's a great point, but you still need connectivity to the business. Unless you're built as a remote culture, meaning we structured everything to work as a no office culture, it's still important to have that connectivity to the culture to ensure that you're connected to the business. But you're absolutely right. There are roles that don't need a fixed office. I would ask, though, just ensure that you have the tether, the connectivity, the experience of being part of the business.
And I think it also is important to highlight that the office, to me, never die. We need the office. The office is a space to connect, to collaborate, to have the branding from the company, and we understand a lot of things and be connected with the people when you are in the office. But the different than in the past, to me, it's like a pendulum. In the past, we go to the office all days. In the pandemic, we go no days. And now we're in the middle, 2 or 3 days of the week. That's enough if you really need to go to the office.
Yeah, and I think
of course, we have some positions that we need to go to the office.
Yeah, and along that point,
if you don't need, we can reduce a little, right?
Absolutely. And along that point, one thing we didn't talk about is measurement. what's working, what isn't working. We need to learn through this too and figure out how to continue to adapt. It isn't that we just put the strategy in place. We should really be measuring how that space is being used. Is it effective? And if it isn't, we should just continue to rethink it and provide that feedback back to the businesses. So I think that's another, just for us as professionals, constant learning and continuous improvement. How do we continue to improve that experience for the employees if it isn't working? Because we're all continuing to learn through this.
Yeah, Chris, I think the last questions that come from me is I believe that the co-working is a great solution to provide this kind of flexibility. I just would like to understand from you what your thought about co-working and this, how we can fit these. And I truly believe that we can provide like three kinds of options to the employees. Okay, a new employee come to me and say, okay, you can work from home easily, no problem. But if you need to go to the office is there. It's our headquarters. It's good. It's fancy. It's nice. You will collaborate with the people. And also, if you need some space to work, but it's far from your home, the headquarters, and your home is so noisy, why not use a co-working solution as not a benefit to the employees, because HR fight with me when I say benefit, but another options to work if you have a co-working. What do you think about this, Chris?
No, I totally aligned. I mean, I think we're just in a moment where there are other options to consider with portfolios downsizing, but I'm bullish in the future about flex as we define. And when I mean flex, it's on demand, as you said, to have an office for a day to get out of your home. If you don't have an office that, you don't need a seat, but you might need a place to meet somebody outside the CBD. So leveraging a meeting space, leveraging a place for a day to work, which is really important. And I look at it as a technology stack now, where you have things that are core, right, to your business. You're always going to have those core spaces. Then you're going to have your leased space that requires flexibility and agility to be able to scale up or down. Then you're going to have your more flex on demand. It's really a wonderful opportunity now to rethink how that all comes together based on things that need to be fixed and core versus one that now we have an option to leverage the more variable opportunity within real estate. So I'm really bullish on the future of flex. And I think landlords are going to own more and more of this space as we continue to evolve.
Yeah, one item that Adam, thank you, Adam, for your comment. The flight to quality for business is very real thing. A lot of companies are moving for old building with no amenities to buildings that people really, let's say, willing to go to the office or motivate to go to the office. Mm-hmm. So I think it is true, Adam. Thank you so much for your comment. Right, Chris? I think Colliers has this very in your blood, right?
and it reinforces everything we just said, right? AAA space, great amenities, close to transportation, access to outdoors, having wellness and work-life balance, having restaurants, those are typically flight to quality spaces. They're in great neighborhoods. They have great access to transportation, wonderful space, great light, great air quality, great infrastructure. So you may spend more, but you may be smaller, meaning we're going to leave this lower cost space, but we're going to be more focused in this new space.
Yeah, fully agree. So, Chris, again, thank you so much for your time. It was a great conversation. I have a lot of comments here from the team here doing, like a great presentation. Thank you so much. So a lot of people put the same comment here. It was a great content. We love it, what you're provide to us from Colliers, one of the main sponsors we have here in the Workplace Club. I am working with the Colliers to have other webinars with the people from your team globally to provide the content we are looking for with the very high quality. This is something that we'd like to have here. So thank you so much, Chris, for your time today.
Well, again, thank you for the invite and being part of Brazil. I want to be there in person to sit next to you on one of these. I very much, I had a great time, and thank you so much for really giving me the platform and the opportunity to have a conversation from Colliers, from myself. Anything we can do to help, we're here, and really wonderful. Thank you so much for your preparation. Keep making me feel so comfortable, Renato, and really have a great rest of your evening. Thank you.
You too, man. Thank you so much. And just to talk a little in Portuguese, okay? Chris. Amigos, muito obrigado pela participação no nosso webinar. Foi um grande prazer ter vocês. E vejo vocês num evento nosso amanhã. Temos um evento bem bacana amanhã, o Elevator Speech, amanhã à noite. E no próximo webinar, já estamos organizando o próximo webinar, a gente vai divulgando no LinkedIn para vocês. Obrigado, pessoal, e boa noite.